Egyptian Morphology, Linguistic Morphology of Ancient Egypt. Chapter 1. The Egyptian Language and its Place in the World. The Egyptian language is one of the oldest attested languages in human history. The earliest inscriptions appeared around 3100 BCE during the early dynastic period, and the language persisted in written form for over 3 millennia. Its last descendant was Coptic, spoken by Egyptian Christians in the 1st centuries CE. Due to this extraordinary longevity, Egyptian provides a unique resource for studying morphology and its evolution. From a classification perspective, Egyptian belongs to the Afroasiatic language family, which also includes Semitic languages, Hebrew, Arabic, Akkadian, Berber, Cushitic, Chadic, and Omotic languages. Within this family, Egyptian occupies a distinct branch, not fully overlapping with any other. This means that while it shares certain features with Semitic languages, such as the root system, where the core of a word generally consists of 3 consonants, it also possesses unique characteristics that distinguish it from its relatives. The history of the Egyptian language is typically divided into several stages. 1. Old Egyptian, circa 3000 to 2000 BCE, the language of early dynastic and Old Kingdom inscriptions. 2. Middle Egyptian, 2000 to 1300 BCE, the classical literary language used in stories, instructions, and religious texts. 3. Late Egyptian, 1300 to 700 BCE, a language closer to everyday speech, appearing in letters, administrative records, and literary texts. 4th, Demotic, 7th century BCE, 5th century CE, a cursive script used for administration and popular writing. 5. Coptic, 3rd to 17th centuries CE, the final stage of Egyptian, written with the Greek alphabet supplemented with additional letters for Egyptian sounds. A key feature of Egyptian morphology is the combination of an ancient root system with gradual changes that eventually led to the nearly analytic structure of Coptic. This makes Egyptian a living laboratory for studying how morphological structures evolve over time. The writing system also played a significant role. Hieroglyphs recorded not only sounds and words, but also an aesthetic dimension. They preserved complex grammatical structures, although over time they became less convenient for everyday writing. This led to the development of cursive scripts, hieratic, and later demotic. Each stage of writing left traces in morphology. Changes in script were accompanied by changes in word formation and grammar. The significance of the Egyptian language extends far beyond linguistics. When Jean-François Champollion deciphered hieroglyphs in the 19th century using the Rosetta Stone, morphology was the key. He noticed similarities between grammatical forms in Coptic and hieroglyphic texts. Morphology thus connected 3 millennia of language history and enabled the understanding of texts that had previously appeared as mysterious symbols. In summary, the Egyptian language occupies a unique place in the world. It is an independent branch of the Afroasiatic family, with a unique morphology reflecting the transition from an ancient root system to a nearly analytic structure. Its history demonstrates how a language can preserve tradition while undergoing continuous change. Chapter 2. The Foundations of Egyptian Morphology. The core of ancient Egyptian linguistic structure lies in its morphology, the system by which words are built and transformed. Like other Afroasiatic languages, Egyptian relied on a root-based system, where meaning was carried primarily by consonants, while vowels and affixes created different word forms. This principle While familiar to anyone studying Semitic languages, like Arabic or Hebrew, takes on its own distinct features in Egyptian, producing a fascinating and somewhat enigmatic grammatical system. Consonantal roots. The majority of Egyptian words were based on biliteral, two-consonant, or triliteral, three-consonant roots. These roots provided a semantic core. For example, the consonants M could relate to the concept of seeing or knowing, depending on how they were vocalized and inflected. Unlike in Semitic languages, Egyptian retained a larger number of biliteral roots, though triliteral roots became increasingly dominant as the language evolved. Roots were highly productive. They could generate verbs, nouns, and adjectives through various morphological patterns. This meant that the same set of consonants could give rise to seemingly diverse words, all linked by a shared semantic field, affixation. To turn a bare root into a functional word, Egyptian employed affixation. Prefixes and suffixes were used to indicate grammatical categories, such as person, number, gender, and tense. Prefixes were often attached to verbs to mark subject pronouns or verbal forms. For example, the prefix s could create a causative verb, transforming a root meaning to know into to cause, to know, to inform. Suffixes played an equally central role. They were especially important for pronouns. Personal pronouns often appeared as suffixes attached to verbs, nouns, or prepositions. For instance, -f indicated he, his, -k, you, mask, and -t, you, them. Inflectional suffixes marked number and gender on nouns. A typical masculine noun might end simply in a consonant, while the feminine was often marked with the suffix t. Plurality could be indicated by endings such as w, masculine plural, or wt, feminine plural. Internal change. In addition to affixes, Egyptian used internal modification of the root to signal different grammatical or lexical categories. Because vowels were not normally written in the hieroglyphic system, much of this internal alternation must be reconstructed by comparing Coptic and related Afro-Asiatic languages. Scholars have found evidence of ablaut-like alternations, changes in the internal vowel pattern that distinguished one verb form from another. For instance, a root might express its basic form in one vocalic pattern, but shift vowels to mark an infinitive, a participle, or a passive voice. This system was never as elaborate as in Semitic, but it was still a vital aspect of Egyptian word formation. Reduplication. Another method of creating meaning was reduplication. By repeating a consonantal element, Egyptian could create intensity, plurality, or iteration. For example, a root meaning to hit could be reduplicated to form a sense of to strike repeatedly or to beat. This morphological strategy enriched the expressive power of the language and allowed for nuanced distinctions. Derivational patterns. Egyptian had a wide range of derivational morphology, that is, ways of creating new words from existing roots. Some common patterns included agent nouns. By adding the suffix o, tai, or y, verbs could produce nouns meaning one who does the action. Abstract nouns. The feminine suffix t often marked abstract qualities, such as turning wise into wisdom. Adjectives. Certain suffixes could form adjectives, often related to possession or relation. Causatives. As noted earlier, the prefix s transformed verbs into their causative equivalents. The role of determinatives. A final unique element of Egyptian morphology is its reliance on determinatives. Hieroglyphic signs placed at the end of words that were not pronounced but clarified meaning. For example, the root PR could mean to go out or house, depending on context. A determinative of a little house would indicate the noun house, while the walking figure could indicate the verb. While not strictly part of morphology in the narrow sense, determinatives functioned as morphological markers within the writing system, guiding interpretation of homographs. A hybrid system. What makes Egyptian morphology so distinctive is its hybrid character. On the one hand, it exhibits the root-based, non-concatenative morphology typical of Afro-Asiatic languages. On the other, it makes heavy use of affixation and external markers, a tendency that grows stronger in later stages of the language. This combination gives us a vivid picture of a linguistic system in transition, one that bridges between synthetic and more analytic structures. Chapter 4: Evolution and Significance. The morphology of the Egyptian language did not remain static over its long history. From Old Egyptian to Coptic, the language evolved in ways that reflected both internal linguistic tendencies and external influences. This evolution illustrates not only the adaptability of the language, but also its central role in Egyptian culture and administration. Changes from Old to Middle Egyptian. Old Egyptian, used primarily in inscriptions of the early dynastic period and Old Kingdom, exhibited a relatively rigid morphological system. Nouns and verbs were marked for gender, number, and aspect through affixes, while roots retained consistent consonantal patterns. Hieroglyphic writing was highly formal, and the language preserved many archaic forms, including complex verb patterns that later simplified. By the Middle Kingdom, Middle Egyptian became the classical literary language. Morphologically, it retained most Old Egyptian structures, but introduced simplifications and regularizations. Some verb forms were reduced in complexity, and certain rare affixes disappeared. Despite these changes, the root-based system remained central, and the language developed increased flexibility in syntax and word order. Middle Egyptian became a standard for literature, religious texts, and official inscriptions, remaining intelligible to later generations even as spoken forms evolved. Late Egyptian and Demotic. Late Egyptian, appearing around 1300 BCE, reflects significant morphological change. Verbal prefixes and particles became more prominent, and the language gradually shifted toward a more analytic structure. Inflectional endings were reduced, and pronouns were used more consistently to indicate subject and object. This stage shows a clear move from a synthetic to a more analytic system, emphasizing function words over internal root modifications. Demotic, the later cursive form of Egyptian, represents the culmination of this process. Its morphology was simpler than that of Middle or Late Egyptian. Plural and gender distinctions were still present, but many older derivational patterns had disappeared. The language became increasingly focused on everyday administrative, legal, and literary needs, reflecting practical communication rather than formal or ritualized speech. Coptic, the last stage. Coptic, written in the Greek alphabet with added characters for Egyptian sounds, represents the final evolutionary stage of the language. Its morphology is mostly analytic, relying on word order, prepositions, and auxiliary particles to convey grammatical relationships. The root system, while still recognizable, had lost much of its earlier complexity. Nevertheless, Coptic preserved many lexical items, pronouns, and semantic structures from its predecessors, providing a bridge to understanding ancient texts. The significance of Egyptian morphology. The evolution of Egyptian morphology is not only a matter of linguistic history, but also a key to understanding Egyptian culture. Morphological analysis allowed scholars to decipher hieroglyphs, reconstruct meaning, and trace the development of concepts over millennia. Without recognizing the root-based system, the role of affixes, and the patterns of verb conjugation, many texts, literary, religious, and administrative, would remain incomprehensible. Moreover, the study of Egyptian morphology reveals the adaptability and resilience of a language. Over thousands of years, it transformed in response to social, political, and cultural pressures while maintaining continuity in its core structures. The persistence of these structures also facilitated cultural transmission, allowing Middle Egyptian texts to remain intelligible for centuries, and Coptic to carry Egyptian linguistic heritage into the Christian era. Chapter 5: Egyptian Language and Modern Scholarship. The study of the Egyptian language has fascinated scholars for centuries, but it was not until the 19th century that its mysteries began to be systematically unraveled. Understanding Egyptian morphology, its roots, affixes, verb patterns, and grammatical structures was central to deciphering hieroglyphs and reconstructing the linguistic history of one of the world's oldest civilizations, the Rosetta Stone and early breakthroughs. The pivotal moment in the study of Egyptian came with the discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799. This artifact, inscribed with the same text in 3 scripts, Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphic, offered a comparative key to an otherwise opaque writing system. Scholars realized that if they could understand the known Greek text, they could begin to unlock the hieroglyphs. Early attempts at decipherment relied heavily on identifying proper names, especially those of rulers. Names were often enclosed in cartouches, allowing linguists to recognize patterns and match them with Greek equivalents. However, progress was slow because the underlying morphology of Egyptian, the system of roots, affixes, and internal modifications, remained poorly understood. Champollion and the morphological key. The breakthrough came with Jean-François Champollion, whose knowledge of Coptic proved crucial. Coptic, the last stage of Egyptian, retained many lexical, grammatical, and morphological features of earlier stages. By comparing Coptic words and structures with hieroglyphic forms, Champollion recognized that Egyptian words were built on consonantal roots and modified by affixes, internal changes, and determinatives. Morphology became the key to unlocking meaning, recognizing that a root could produce multiple related words, allowed scholars to interpret texts beyond proper names. For example, understanding how pronouns attached to verbs, or how causative and passive forms were constructed, enabled the accurate reading of legal texts, religious writings, and literary compositions. Without this insight into morphology, hieroglyphs would have remained largely undeciphered. Part 2: Biological Morphology and Medicine in Ancient Egypt. Chapter 1: The Medical Tradition of Egypt. Ancient Egypt was remarkable, not only for its architecture and literature, but also for its advanced medical knowledge. Egyptians developed a sophisticated understanding of the human body, disease, and treatment centuries before Greek or Roman medicine. Their approach combined careful observation, practical treatment, and spiritual belief. Medical papyri. The main sources of Egyptian medicine are the medical papyri, including the Edwin Smith Papyrus, the Ebers Papyrus, and the Kahun Gynecological Papyrus. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, circa 1600 BCE, focuses on trauma and surgery, describing wounds, fractures, and dislocations, and emphasizes observation and logical treatment rather than magic. The Ebers, papyrus, circa 1550 BCE, contains hundreds of remedies, combining herbs, diet, and spells, while the Kahun papyrus addresses gynecological issues, showing detailed knowledge of the female body. These texts illustrate a blend of practical and spiritual medicine. Physicians and practice Egyptian physicians, or SW&W, often belonged to a learned elite, sometimes associated with temples. While religion influenced medicine, empirical observation was key. Physicians examined the body, classified ailments, and developed treatments. Some specialized in dentistry, eye diseases, or internal medicine, anatomy, and morphology. Mummification provided the Egyptians with practical anatomical knowledge. They observed organs, bones, and vessels, creating one of the earliest systematic studies of human morphology. Although some beliefs, like the heart being the center of thought, differ from modern science, these observations were advanced for their time. Mummification served both religious and educational purposes. Legacy Egyptian medicine influenced later Greek and Roman practices. Their careful recording of symptoms, understanding of anatomy, and practical treatments laid a foundation for future medical knowledge. Modern studies of papyri continue to reveal insights into ancient diseases and the Egyptians' sophisticated understanding of the human body. Chapter 3: Practice and Observation. The practical application of medical knowledge in ancient Egypt demonstrates their careful study of the human body and its functions. Egyptian physicians combined observation, experience, and structured methods to treat injuries and illnesses, creating a foundation for the earliest systematic approach to medical practice. Examination and diagnosis. Egyptian physicians, or SW&W, followed a methodical approach to diagnosis. They examined the patient carefully, noting the location, size, and severity of injuries. Symptoms such as swelling, bleeding, or abnormal movement were documented, and prognosis was often determined by observing the body over time. Trauma, especially fractures and dislocations, received particular attention, as seen in the Edwin Smith Papyrus, which provides step-by-step instructions for examining, setting, and dressing wounds. Treatment, techniques. Treatment combined practical remedies with careful attention to the body's morphology. Fractures were immobilized using splints, wounds were cleaned and bandaged, and ointments made from herbs, fats, and minerals were applied. Physicians also performed minor surgeries, demonstrating an understanding of internal structures. Eye problems, dental issues, and injuries from accidents or warfare were treated with specialized methods. Observation and learning observation was central to Egyptian medical practice. Through repeated examination and the preservation of bodies via mummification, physicians gained knowledge of skeletal structures, organs, and muscle connections. These insights informed surgical techniques, herbal remedies, and preventive care. Integration with spiritual beliefs. Although observation and practical treatment were emphasized, Egyptian medicine was inseparable from religious and magical practices. Illness could be caused by supernatural forces, and treatment often included spells or ritual actions alongside physical therapy. This holistic perspective encouraged physicians to study the body meticulously, as understanding its form was essential for both physical and spiritual healing. Legacy of Egyptian practice. The Egyptian focus on observation and structured treatment influenced later Greek and Roman medicine. Their careful documentation, methodical approach, and attention to anatomy provided a framework for understanding human morphology. Modern studies of mummies continue to reveal the precision and sophistication of these early medical practices. Chapter 4: Diseases and Morphology of Illness. The study of disease in ancient Egypt reveals how the Egyptians linked bodily form with illness. Their medical texts and mummified remains provide evidence of both common ailments and more serious conditions, showing how closely they observed the morphology of illness. Common ailments. Everyday problems such as eye infections, tooth decay, and digestive issues were widespread. The dry climate and dusty environment often caused eye irritation, while poor dental hygiene led to severe tooth wear and abscesses. Remedies included herbal washes for the eyes and fillings made from natural substances for damaged teeth. Infectious and chronic diseases. Evidence from mummies shows that Egyptians suffered from tuberculosis, parasitic infections, and arteriosclerosis. Schistosomiasis, caused by parasites in the Nile, was particularly common and damaged internal organs. Chronic conditions, such as arthritis and hardening of the arteries, were also observed in mummified bodies, reflecting both age and lifestyle. Injuries and trauma. Egyptians lived in a society where manual labor, construction, and warfare frequently caused injuries. Fractures, dislocations, and wounds were treated carefully, with physicians using splints, bandages, and ointments. The Edwin Smith Papyrus describes trauma cases with remarkable clinical detail, including prognosis based on the visible condition of bones and tissues. Morphological understanding of illness. Egyptians explained illness in two ways: physical and spiritual. Physical causes were linked to blockages or damage in the body's channels, while spiritual causes involved gods, demons, or curses. Treatment often addressed both aspects. Physicians observed the body and applied practical remedies, but also recited spells or performed rituals to restore harmony. This dual approach reflects their holistic view of the body as both physical form and spiritual vessel. Legacy. The Egyptian understanding of disease, grounded in observation and morphology, influenced Greek and Roman medicine. Their recognition of specific conditions, combined with careful anatomical study, demonstrates a level of medical sophistication rare for the ancient world. Today, modern science continues to study mummies, to trace the history of ancient illnesses. Chapter 5: Legacy and Influence. The medical and morphological knowledge of ancient Egypt had a lasting impact on later civilizations and continues to influence modern studies. Their detailed observations of the human body, structured treatments, and documentation of diseases set a foundation for scientific medicine. Influence on Greek and Roman medicine. Greek scholars, including Hippocrates, were aware of Egyptian medical practices. They adopted many remedies, surgical techniques, and anatomical observations. Roman medicine also drew on Egyptian knowledge, particularly in practical approaches to trauma, wound care, and herbal treatments. The systematic documentation of injuries and diseases in Egyptian texts provided models for later medical writing. Preservation through texts. Medical papyri preserved centuries of observation and experimentation. The Edwin Smith Papyrus exemplifies rational, step-by-step procedures for examining and treating trauma, while the Ebers Papyrus documents hundreds of remedies and procedures. These texts reveal a sophisticated understanding of anatomy and disease morphology, demonstrating that Egyptian medicine combined empirical practice with cultural and spiritual beliefs, anatomical knowledge, and mummification. Mummification not only served religious purposes, but also preserved bodies for centuries, allowing detailed study of internal organs, skeletal structures, and pathological conditions. Modern scientific analysis of mummies continues to provide insights into ancient diseases, injuries, and life expectancy, confirming the precision of Egyptian anatomical knowledge. Integration of practical and spiritual approaches. Egyptians approached medicine holistically, combining observation, treatment, and ritual. This integration of physical and spiritual care emphasizes the importance they placed on understanding the body in its entirety. Their methods show that morphological knowledge was not limited to structural anatomy, but extended to diagnosing disease, planning treatments, and maintaining health. Lasting legacy. The Egyptian approach to medicine exemplifies the earliest systematic study of human morphology. Their careful recording of symptoms, understanding of injuries and internal structures, and integration of empirical and spiritual knowledge influenced successive civilizations and remains relevant today. Modern medical research continues to benefit from their detailed anatomical and pathological observations. Part 3. Cultural and Architectural Morphology of Ancient Egypt. Chapter 1. Architectural Forms. Ancient Egyptian architecture is one of the most enduring expressions of human ingenuity, reflecting a deep understanding of form, proportion, and symbolic meaning. The morphology of Egyptian buildings reveals a civilization that valued order, durability, and harmony with both nature and spiritual beliefs. Pyramids. The pyramids, especially those at Giza, are the most iconic Egyptian architectural forms. Their geometric precision, massive scale, and alignment with celestial bodies demonstrate advanced engineering and a sophisticated understanding of structural morphology. Pyramids were more than tombs. They symbolize cosmic order, eternal life, and the pharaoh's divine role. The form of the pyramid, a stable, tapering shape, reflected both practical considerations for stability and religious symbolism. Temples and columns. Temples were designed according to strict architectural canons. They often included pylons, hypostyle halls, and sanctuaries arranged along axial lines. Columns, inspired by natural forms such as lotus and papyrus, were not only structural, but also symbolic, representing life, creation, and fertility. Hieroglyphic inscriptions and reliefs integrated with these forms reinforced religious and cultural messages. Functional and symbolic morphology. Egyptian architecture balanced function and symbolism. Tombs protected the deceased and stored offerings, while temples facilitated rituals and reinforced social hierarchy. The shapes, proportions, and layouts of buildings followed a morphological logic that expressed stability, order, and harmony. For example, massive stone blocks were arranged to withstand millennia, while symmetrical layouts conveyed cosmic and social balance. Materials and techniques. Stone was the preferred material for monumental structures due to its durability. Mortar, precise cutting, and careful alignment allowed builders to create forms that remain intact today. The Egyptians also used mud brick for ordinary buildings, demonstrating an understanding of material properties and their influence on morphological outcomes. Legacy of architectural morphology. Egyptian architectural forms influenced subsequent cultures, from Greek temples to modern neoclassical designs. Their focus on proportion, symbolism, and the integration of function with aesthetic and religious considerations provides enduring lessons in design and morphology. Chapter 2: City Planning and Spatial Morphology. The cities of ancient Egypt reflect the same attention to form, order, and function seen in their architecture. Urban planning was influenced by geography, the Nile, religious practices, and social hierarchy, creating a spatial morphology that combined practical needs with symbolic meaning. Geography and layout. Most Egyptian cities were located along the Nile, taking advantage of fertile land and river transport. The river acted as both a lifeline and an organizing axis. Cities were often elongated along the riverbank, with main streets and canals aligned parallel to the Nile. This spatial arrangement ensured access to water, trade routes, and agricultural lands, while maintaining a logical urban structure. Residential and functional zones. Cities were divided into functional zones. Residential quarters, markets, temples, and administrative centers were spatially organized to reflect social hierarchy and daily activities. Elite areas near temples and palaces contrasted with commoner neighborhoods and artisan districts. Streets were generally narrow and winding in residential areas, while ceremonial avenues connecting temples and public buildings were straight and monumental. Religious and ceremonial morphology, temples, shrines, and sacred structures often occupied prominent positions in cities. Axial planning emphasized processional routes and sightlines, reinforcing religious and political power. The spatial morphology of sacred buildings mirrored their architectural principles. Symmetry, proportion, and alignment conveyed cosmic order and societal hierarchy. Integration of urban form and function. Practical concerns such as water management, drainage, and accessibility were integrated with symbolic considerations. Canals, streets, and storage areas were designed to facilitate trade, agriculture, and daily life. At the same time, urban layouts conveyed stability, hierarchy, and ritual significance, reflecting a deep understanding of functional morphology. Legacy of Egyptian urban planning. The urban morphology of Egypt influenced later civilizations, particularly in the Mediterranean. Their integration of practical infrastructure, ceremonial architecture, and social organization demonstrates how morphology can shape human behavior and cultural expression. Modern archaeology continues to study city layouts to understand Egyptian social, economic, and religious life. Chapter 3: Symbolic Morphology in Art and Iconography. Art in ancient Egypt is highly structured, following strict conventions that convey both aesthetic and symbolic meaning. The morphology of Egyptian art, the way forms are shaped and arranged, reflects cultural values, religious beliefs, and social hierarchies. Human figures. Egyptian artists followed canonical proportions when depicting the human body. Figures were often shown in composite view, heads and legs in profile, torsos frontal. This morphology of representation ensured clarity and conveyed status and function. Size indicated importance. Pharaohs and deities were depicted larger than common people. This visual hierarchy was a morphological principle embedded in Egyptian art. Symbolic use of animals. Animals were not only decorative, but symbolic. Cats, crocodiles, falcons, and jackals represented specific gods, traits, or natural forces. Their depiction followed standardized forms that conveyed meaning clearly. For example, the falcon represented Horus, and the jackal represented Anubis. Artists maintained morphological consistency, to ensure these symbols were immediately recognizable: hieroglyphs and iconography. Hieroglyphic writing is a unique blend of language and visual art. Each sign has a specific form, and their arrangement conveys both phonetic and symbolic meaning. The morphology of hieroglyphs integrates form and function. Images are carefully proportioned, often echoing natural shapes, while their placement follows spatial rules within inscriptions. Ritual and decorative morphology. Walls of temples and tombs were organized into registers, horizontal bands that separate scenes. This morphological structure allowed narratives to unfold clearly. Scenes of offerings, battles, or daily life were depicted with consistent proportions and spatial relationships, ensuring coherence and emphasizing symbolic meaning. Legacy. The symbolic morphology of Egyptian art influenced neighboring cultures, including Greek and Roman iconography. Its focus on proportion, clarity, and the integration of symbolic meaning into form remains a model for understanding how art can encode cultural and religious values. Chapter 4. Monumental Sculpture and Form. Monumental sculpture is one of the most striking aspects of ancient Egyptian art. Its morphology, proportions, posture, and arrangement reflects cultural values, religious beliefs, and technical mastery. These sculptures were designed not only for aesthetic impact, but also for symbolic and ritual purposes. Human statues, Egyptian statues of pharaohs, and deities followed strict proportional rules. Figures were frontal and rigid, often standing or seated, to convey stability, permanence, and divine authority. The idealized forms emphasized strength and eternal youth, reflecting the Egyptians' concept of an unchanging, ordered cosmos. The scale of the statues communicated a social hierarchy, with larger figures representing gods or rulers, and smaller ones representing attendants or common people. Materials and techniques. Stone, especially granite and limestone, was the primary material for monumental sculptures. Due to its durability, artisans mastered carving techniques that allowed them to achieve fine detail while maintaining the overall rigidity and stability of the form. Relief sculpture, both raised and sunk, further illustrated narrative and symbolic content. The morphology of these forms ensured that the sculptures could endure centuries without losing their symbolic or aesthetic integrity. Symbolic posture and attributes. Posture, gestures, and accompanying attributes were highly codified. Pharaohs were often shown with clenched fists, ceremonial regalia, or symbols of power, such as the crook and flail. Deities were represented with animal heads, or specific iconographic features that conveyed their powers and domains. Every aspect of form served symbolic function, integrating morphology and meaning seamlessly. Integration with architecture. Monumental sculptures were closely linked with architecture. Colossal statues guarded temple entrances, while seated figures adorned sanctuaries. Their placement reinforced visual hierarchies, guided ritual movement, and highlighted the spiritual significance of space. The morphology of sculpture thus extended beyond the object itself, influencing the perception of architectural spaces. Legacy. Egyptian monumental sculpture influenced subsequent artistic traditions across the Mediterranean. The focus on proportion, symbolic posture, and integration with architecture provided a model for conveying cultural and religious ideals through form. Modern appreciation of Egyptian art continues to recognize the precision and intention behind these enduring works. Chapter 5. Cultural Legacy of Egyptian Morphology. The morphology of ancient Egyptian culture, expressed through architecture, urban planning, art, and sculpture, has left a lasting impact on both historical and modern civilizations. Egyptian approaches to form, proportion, and symbolic design created visual and spatial systems that communicated social, religious, and political ideals. Architectural influence. Egyptian architecture, particularly the pyramids and temples, set a precedent for monumental construction. Geometric precision, alignment with celestial bodies, and axial symmetry influenced later cultures, including Greek, Roman, and Islamic architecture. The careful integration of structural stability with symbolic meaning demonstrates how morphological principles shaped cultural expression. Urban planning. The spatial organization of Egyptian cities, including functional zones, axial layouts, and river-oriented planning, provided a model for coherent urban design. Cities reflected social hierarchy, religious priorities, and practical needs, illustrating how morphology could structure daily life and civic order. This holistic approach influenced subsequent urban planning in the Mediterranean and beyond. Artistic and iconographic legacy. Egyptian art and iconography, with their canonical proportions and symbolic forms, influenced artistic conventions for centuries. The emphasis on clarity, hierarchy, and recognizable symbolism can be traced in Greco-Roman art and continues to inspire modern design. Morphology in art was not purely aesthetic. It encoded cultural and religious narratives, demonstrating a sophisticated system of visual communication, integration of form and meaning. A defining feature of Egyptian morphology across architecture, sculpture, and art is the inseparability of form and meaning. Proportions, spatial arrangements, and iconographic conventions were designed to convey order, permanence, and divine authority. This principle established a legacy where design was both functional and symbolic, setting a standard for artistic and architectural thinking. Enduring lessons. The study of Egyptian morphology reveals lessons for modern architects, urban planners, and artists. Their focus on structural logic, proportionality, and the integration of symbolic meaning offers insights into how design can convey complex social and spiritual ideas. Egyptian morphology exemplifies how cultural identity and aesthetic principles can coexist within a coherent system of forms.